In the gospel passage today, Jesus tells us to be salty. What on earth could that mean? I gotta look. Salty, I started thinking about all the different things that salt can do. Salt is very important to us here in this part of the country, keeping our sidewalks safe so we can travel on them when it's icy. Some people add salt to water to make a solution that they could use for their contact lenses or in a neti pot or in a nose spray. Does Jesus want us to clean things? Some folks add salts, fancy salts, to their baths in order to help them relax. Does Jesus want us to chill out? Salt can be used to make really beautiful art. Does Jesus want us to create beautiful things? Our oceans are full of salt, creating a wonderful home for many creatures and plants. Does Jesus want us to protect saltwater habitats? In really intense concentrations, salt can make water more buoyant, like at the Dead Sea. Is Jesus hoping we're going to float around? Salty is also a word sometimes used to describe people who are full of life and attitude. Does Jesus want us to be sassy? Jesus may want us to do many of those things, maybe not all of them. But in this passage, his meaning comes closer to this, I think. Salt in our food intensifies flavors that are already there. Jesus is calling us to be ourselves and to help others thrive as they are as well, full and whole and flavorful. Of course, in this passage, Jesus doesn't only tell us to be salty. He also tells us to be bright. More about that next week. And then he says something interesting. He says, "Do not think I came to abolish the law and the prophets. I come not to abolish, but to fulfill." Because Jesus was a reformer, some folks thought he wanted to change everything, leave traditions behind. But it wasn't true. Jesus wanted to renew his tradition, to bring attention and life to scriptures and traditions that he treasured. Sometimes when we inherit things, we don't notice how wonderful they are. We write them off as old or outdated, irrelevant. So someone needs to come along with salt to help us notice the layers and nuances of taste, how these ancient things are still delicious and nourishing. Today we are handing out Bibles to our third graders, the ones who could be here today. This is a tradition for us. Sometimes it happened in different ways, depending on what stage of the pandemic we were in. Why do we do this? Some folks imagine that there are only two ways to read the Bible. You can read it as if it's always obviously clear, a consistent guide to life, something sure that you can use to direct your decisions and maybe also judge other people's choices. Or you can reject it out of hand because it is strange and old and contradictory, and it has often been used to harm people. But in this branch of Christian tradition, we try a different way. We take the Bible seriously and we study it. We learn about the communities that recorded these stories, about their history and culture. We think about why these very different pieces of writing about God and community were chosen and put together in a fascinating library for future generations. We search within this book for holy inspiration and ancient truths that can help us today. We use the Bible almost like it's a recipe book. Like good cooks, we're learning from the experts of generations past who tried to record what is important and good and delicious. We take these marvelous recipes that were recorded, recipes for meaningful and holy and compassionate lives, and then we use whatever ingredients we have on hand here and now to make them fresh for today. We were made to be salty. And we can use that salt as a seasoning for our own souls to be more ourselves, as a seasoning for the traditions and the wisdom that we have inherited. We can use that salt to season the world around us, adding justice and joy. And we can come together with others to make something truly delicious, full of many different flavors. Amen.